Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name's Rebecca, I'm 45 years old and I used to suffer from multiple sclerosis, but I no longer experience any of the symptoms since starting the carnivore diet just over 2 years ago. In today's video, I've got some bad news, as you will see from the title of the video. I have received the results of another MRI scan which has shown disease progression, and by disease progression I mean new lesions or the growth of lesions in comparison with previous scans. Now, I didn't actually tell you guys about this MRI scan. It happened in September, but because it was a routine scan, it wasn't even my annual scan. Elon, settle down, good boy. Because it was only a routine scan, it was to do with the fact that I've moved house twice in the past 2 years. So I've gone from one hospital to another because I don't have private health insurance. So it depends what region I'm in as to what hospital I'm connected to and what neurologist I have. I'm in the Spanish healthcare system, the social security system. By the way, I want to make it clear, I don't receive any money from the Spanish government. I don't receive any welfare, but I do pay every month to have access to the Spanish healthcare system. And that's slightly cheaper than having private health insurance with an MS diagnosis. That's why I'm always referred to a neurologist rather than being able to shop around and choose a neurologist. So because I've moved house twice, from Asturias to Galicia and then back to Asturias again, I've gone from my old neurologist to a different neurologist and back to my old neurologist again. So what he did earlier in the year was order another MRI scan so that when we met, he had the most up-to-date information about what's going on in my brain. So that's the MRI scan that I had in September. As I say, I didn't mention it on the channel, but now that I've got the results, I feel like I ought to mention it. I considered not mentioning it because it's bad news. It felt a bit upsetting to receive this news. I've got the letter here, and he's written in handwriting on it, you can't carry on without treatment, your disease has progressed. And of course I felt quite disheartened for some time, thinking, maybe the diet hasn't worked. Very unexpected, very disappointing, because my MRI scan in 2024, which I had in Galicia, showed no active lesions. And that was such wonderful news, and I've just been going around feeling like I don't even have MS. It's nothing, no symptoms, no active lesions, no progression. But here we are with progression. However, it then occurred to me that at the beginning of the letter, the key sentence is, this is being compared to scans in 2022 and 2023 because they don't share information between regions. So the scan that he's given me in 2025 is being compared to the scans I had in 2023 and 2022. And in between those scans, there's been signs of progression of the disease, new lesions, growth of lesions. And in actual fact, I started the carnivore diet in 2023. So it suddenly occurred to me that disease progression could have been from the time of the scan in 2023 up to the point where I started the carnivore diet in 2023. It could be at any point that progression happened. And then if there's no active lesions in 2024, he needs to have that information, and that's what he needs to compare the most recent scan to. Because if there's no difference between the 2024 scan and the 2025 scan and there's no active lesions, then it could have been at the point I started the diet that the disease stopped progressing. And I don't know if I'm explaining that very clearly. It's all a bit complicated because I keep moving house and I don't actually have just a set of MRI scans which show the progression of my disease. And that's actually why I wasn't able to participate in Anthony Chaffee's study. If you know about the Anthony Chaffee's MS study, he asked me to participate, he invited me, but I couldn't provide the history of my MRI scans because I've moved countries and I moved house and just all over the place. So anyway, the point being, I'm going to go to this appointment with my old neurologist who I have had a difficult relationship with. I will post up here, I'll put the link up here to a previous appointment I had with this neurologist so you can see the kind of approach he has and the differences that we have. We just sometimes butt heads about how to approach my condition. Well, actually, we've basically I wouldn't say that we argue, but there's been tension in the past between the two of us, and now I'm back with the same guy. So yeah, I am very keen for him to look at my 2024 scan and tell me what the full picture is here. So yeah, so it's not necessarily bad news, but I need to have this appointment with him and see what he says. Okay, so let's get on with the vlog. Okay, I'm about to drive to the hospital in Oviedo to meet my neurologist. I'm not particularly looking forward to it. I do feel like I've been summoned to the headmaster's office because I've been naughty. And it's the first time I've seen him in 2 years. So I don't think he's going to be overly pleased to find out that I still don't want medication and I still don't have any symptoms. It's very weird because he would like me to develop symptoms so that he can persuade me to start treatment. Yeah, we have this very strange dynamic, and mind you, we don't dislike each other. I think we just have different perspectives. Even so, it's a bit of a weird meeting because there has been disease progression, as I've explained in the intro to this video, but I'm going to ask him to look at the scan that I have from 2024, a more recent scan. I'll just show you what's going on. Oh, the camera just zoomed in on me and the car's steaming up because it's raining. This is crazy. Okay, so I've got this, which is a CD printout of my last scan in 2024. So I'm going to ask him before we make any decisions about treatment or not. To be honest, I don't want treatment even if I do have disease progression, but that's just me. I understand that that's a risk, so I don't advocate that as a perspective, but I just don't want MS treatment. Like, I had a horrible time when I was receiving it back in England, and since I don't have any symptoms, I don't feel the need. Anyway, I've got this CD disc, and I'm going to ask him to compare my most recent MRI scan results with this one and tell me if there's been any progression since 2024, because that to me is the most important piece of information. Okay, wish me luck. I can't vlog it. I'm not going to walk in there and say, hey, it's me, the difficult patient, please appear on my YouTube channel where I advocate the carnivore diet. I'm not going to do that. But what I'll do is I'll just, as soon as I come out of the appointment, I'll pick up the camera and I will tell you guys all about it. Okay, see you on the other side. Right, okay, I'm out of the hospital now and I am in Lidl car park. Lidl is a cheap German supermarket and it's right next to the hospital. And I came here because they sell grain-free dog food at a very economical price. So I thought I'd stop by and stock up on dog food. I have actually got to get straight back because of the dogs. I've left them in the house for quite a long time. And I'm sure Elon will have done a shit on the floor. So that would be nice. Anyway, I had my appointment and I came out feeling slightly emotional in a good way because my neurologist this time was not antagonistic with me. He was actually very reasonable and very fair. I think he was happy to see me even. And he obviously started by saying, look, you've got disease progression. We can see that you've got more lesions since your previous scan in 2023. And, you know, this is something you've got to take seriously. And I said, look, I have got a scan from Galicia from 2024 in which they told me I had no active lesions. And he said, were they comparing that with anything? And quite rightly, I, you know, agreed that no, they weren't. This was not information about the progression. But I said, what about the lesions? And he kind of brushed that off. He said that could be misleading or something like that. But I don't know if I buy that, because I remember him saying to me that it was important that the lesions were active or not active in a previous situation. So he just brushed that off. But I don't think that he can deny that if they have told me that the lesions aren't active, then that's information that's relevant. Anyway, he has agreed to look at that scan. He couldn't look at it in the appointment. He has to send it down to radiology or something, and they're the ones who can interpret it. And he's going to look at that and see if there's been disease progression since 2024. And then if there hasn't, then that leaves room for the possibility that upon starting the carnivore diet, the disease stopped progressing, because the scan he was comparing it to was before I started the diet. So yeah, and he also said that the scan in Galicia was done by an MRI machine that was of a lesser strength. He talked about Teslas, and I was like, what, you mean the car? And he said no, he said magnetism is actually measured in units of Tesla, as in Nikola Tesla, the guy, not the brand. The point being, his MRI scan in this hospital is actually a few degrees stronger and more reliable than the one in Galicia. But that doesn't mean that he can discard the MRI scan from Galicia. So he has agreed, he's taken it, he's going to see me again in February. And he did just say, like, his attitude was nicer. He was like, look, you're an enigma to me. He said, you are an enigma. That's the word he used. But a happy enigma. He was quite emphatic this time that it was a happy enigma. He was happy that I didn't have symptoms, because he didn't ask me, but I told him I've had no symptoms in the past 2 years since I last saw you. And he said that made him happy, and that, you know, I should know that if anything changes in that regard, if I develop any weird symptoms, numbness, lack of coordination, anything like that, if I can't use my legs or my hands, call them and they are here at my disposition. So he was very reassuring in that respect, that we're not here to make you feel bad, we're here to help you if anything changes for the worse. And he says that he talks about me in conferences, that he can't explain my case. He doesn't ask me what I think about that. Is there anything I've done that might have influenced my case? That kind of, it doesn't bother me, because I understand that's his training, but it's still frustrating, because, you know, I have made some radical decisions which have changed the course of my disease as I have experienced it. I think that's information worth hearing. He doesn't know how to explain my case, but he's not interested in hearing that information. He did all the usual tests that they do to test your balance and your coordination, and I was able to do all of them with absolutely no problem. And at the end of that test, he went, joder, which is Spanish for like shit. So, you know, that's proof. That's not just me saying I have no symptoms. That's him testing my balance and coordination and being able to do those tests with absolutely no problem. So that's still the case. I still have no symptoms, and that's undeniable. And we are going to meet again in February and discuss the comparison of my 2024 scan with my 2025 scan and take it from there. Yeah, he didn't press me to take medication at this point, so I was grateful for that as well. Yeah, it was a good meeting. I did appreciate his attitude. He's softened towards me and he's less hostile, so that means the world to me. Yeah, cool. So there you go, that's the latest update, and watch this space and we'll see how my disease progression measures up from 2024 to 2025. He did actually sit there and read the written reports. He couldn't look at the scan from 2024. In the software on his computer won't show him the information, but he read the report and he said that it's basically saying exactly the same. So based on the written reports, there didn't seem to be much difference, and he went through it in quite some detail. So that was reassuring as well, that there's not actually any progression since last year, but it remains to be seen what shows up on the scan. Yeah, so we'll have a good indication in February of the state of things within my brain since starting the diet. Okay, I better get back to those doggies. So take care, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.